year. On Saturday, its website went offline with little warning. I've been speaking to Jeremy Konyndyk. He's the president of Refugees International. He's a former USAID official under the Biden and Obama administrations. First off, as a former USAID official, what's been your reaction to these recent attacks that we've been seeing on the agency by the Trump administration? We also, of course, heard Trump's ally, Elon Musk, saying online it's time for that organization to die. What's your reaction?
Well, it I think shows a fundamental misunderstanding and, frankly, a bad faith misunderstanding of what USAID actually does in the world, the good it does representing America abroad, the good it does for millions of people around the world. This is an organization that helped to beat Ebola in West Africa, that helped to vaccinate the world against COVID, that has helped to roll back HIV in many parts of Africa, that responds to humanitarian crises. When I worked at USAID during the Obama administration, I responded to disaster after disaster. When America shows up to pull people from the rubble of buildings after an earthquake, that's USAID. That's the real USAID, not this caricature that we're now seeing from Musk and Trump.
Yeah, we've seen criticism from Stephen Miller. He's a top aide to Donald Trump. He's accused USAID of being run by mostly Democrats. I mean, why do you think the president's administration is going after that group? Do you think this is a political move?
It's definitely a political move. It's not entirely clear to me why they picked USAID first out of the gate. USAID kind of flew under the radar during the first Trump administration. It was very professionally run. It went about its business. It had support from the White House. I don't know what changed in their minds this time to target it this way, but it's deeply damaging. This is meaning pulling services out of humanitarian crisis zones around the world. It means shutting down critical medical services. Feeding centers are being shut down in Sudan right now over this. It's absolutely devastating. And so whatever the motives, the effect of this is a real pullback of visible American leadership and visible American benevolence in the world.
There is this plan kind of being floated in some back channels here. We're getting reports that the Trump administration wants to maybe fold USAID into the State Department, kind of take away its independence. How feasible of a plan do you think that would be? And do you agree with something like that?
Well, I don't agree with that. I think it would also be exceptionally complicated and messy and very disruptive to try and do that. You would be talking about merging two totally separate and distinct personnel systems and a lot of other administrative systems that would be hard to move. But more to the point, diplomacy and relief and development are very different and distinct skill sets, and the government needs both. The government has room for both, but they're not the same. And so by merging them together, I think you would weaken both. And that has been the experience of prior mergers like this. In the 1990s, there was the U.S. Information Agency that was merged into the State Department in a reorganization and became the kind of public diplomacy arm of the State Department. It's now widely seen as having greatly weakened U.S. public diplomacy.
This has really been a week of turmoil at the agency. 90 USAID staff members put on leave now. We saw even the pictures in the hallways being taken down, I believe. The website's down. Have you been hearing anything from your former colleagues there? What have they been saying?
Well, I think there is a lot of nervousness and trepidation and fear and intimidation, frankly, in the agency. I think that it's really important to watch how this is being done. It's possible to have a good faith, honest debate about whether the U.S. would be better served by merging USAID into the State Department. And I think I would disagree, but that would be a valid debate to have. That is not what's happening here. What's happening here is an attempt by people who seemingly have no official government role, weakening, undermining, and trying to, in the words of Musk today, to basically kill off a federal agency. That is not constitutional. It's not lawful. And I hope Congress wakes up and starts paying more attention to this, particularly Republicans in Congress who have for a long time recognized and supported the good work that USAID does on behalf of the American people around the world.
Yeah, there's a legal question that still has to play out here. Before I let you go briefly, if you don't mind, what kind of signal do you think this might send to the world if this agency is scaled back or eliminated altogether?
Well, it sends a signal that America will be smaller and meaner and less generous and more selfish. It sends a signal that we are deeply unreliable as a country and as a government. There is a lot of talk these days about geostrategic competition between the U.S. and China. I imagine that Chinese diplomats all over the world are having a field day with this. talking to their government counterparts and saying, those people who are turning up to HIV clinics and can't get their HIV meds that the US has faithfully supported for years and years, that's a sign of what's to come, and arguing that China rather than the US is the more reliable partner.